because if she has nothing that fills her up, she can't pour out anything. And then that's when she becomes frustrated. That's when she becomes tired. She becomes angry and she's mad about doing the stuff she's doing. And
Mm-hmm.
it's
Mm-hmm.
stuff that she enjoys, but it's still frustrating because she is not allowing herself to be refilled.
Oh, hello, everybody. Thank you for tuning in to Tough Talk with Chonita Rose. Today's guest is going to be Dr. Keshia Keith of Life Interrupted Counseling Services. And we are so grateful to have her on today. She's a phenomenal woman who also masters, just like the rest of us, a million different titles. She's a wife, a mama, a counselor, confidant, friend, sister, daughter. I mean, you name it. I mean, at the end of the day, when you think about it, my God created a wonderful thing when he created women, right, Keshia?
Yes, absolutely.
Well,
Yes, he
I'm
did.
sorry. Let me put some respect on your name, Dr. Keshia Keith, okay? We just gonna call you
Well,
Dr.
thank you.
Keshia today. How are
Right.
you?
I'm doing fine. It's a pleasure to be here. I've been talking about mental health a lot. Not only is that my job, but of course, this is Mental Health Awareness Month. And so I've been on different platforms talking about it because it's very important. And absolutely, I know that God did his thing when he made us. We just have to learn to preserve ourselves in the
Absolutely.
process.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I completely agree with that. So on our platform, we help a lot. We help mothers who struggle with finances and making good decisions. And finances is something that really stresses us out I think
Mhm.
not only just women, but as a people. Men are
Yeah.
really, sometimes they handle it a little bit worse than us, but it's not that we don't handle it in a bad way. We might just mask it a little bit more. But tell me more about Life Interrupted Services, and then tell me how you help other women. Like, do you ever run into situations where people have anxiety and are just stressing about finances and life in general?
Yes, I absolutely do. Because that is a part of my niche in counseling is to work with people who have dealt with or are dealing with depression and anxiety.
Ah.
So I run into them on a daily basis. In that aspect, that answers that question. But let me go back to the first question. Life Interrupted Counseling Services is a counseling service that I provide individual sessions to adult clients who are dealing with anxiety and depression. And some different stressors, work-life balance, trying to just kind of figure out some things. I also enjoy working with women who have dealt with postpartum depression because I've absolutely dealt with that myself. And so that is really the reason my practice is called Life Interrupted, because my life was interrupted as a result of experiencing postpartum. So I paid that forward in being able to take what I've learned and pour that out in for other people to be able to figure out their own plan, because some of my experiences are not their experiences,
Right.
and things that work for me might not work for them, but we can journey together to figure out what will be good and how you can get productive.
Absolutely. And I think that that's great. It's wonderful that you can turn your pain and your sorrow into something positive to help fuel
Mhm.
the motivation and the forward progression of somebody else in your life. I truly feel like
I think
um
that that's what we're here for.
absolutely. And I was going to say the same thing. I truly think that God put us on this earth because our life is not our own, right?
That's
And
it.
so if
Yeah.
we're not reaching out and touching and helping each other through, then we're kind of, in my opinion, um, forfeiting the whole purpose of life here, right?
Yeah. Yes. Absolutely.
Well, thank you
Absolutely.
for all that you're doing in the community. I'm pretty sure. I mean, postpartum. My goodness, I know as a mom, I have four. I think I kind of went into postpartum a little bit with my second child, but that's because he kind of was born with a mild illness, and that sent me for a loop.
Yeah.
But yeah, I know that can be tough. So thank you so much for that. That's amazing.
Yeah.
Now talking about the stress and the anxieties, what are some things that we can do to overcome those stresses that we might have? I'm sorry, let me back up a little bit because I like to give loaded questions. So I'll tell you myself, I don't necessarily suffer from anxiety, but I think for me, what helps is being in tune with yourself and knowing when you're
Mm.
overwhelmed or knowing your triggers. So
Mhm.
because we do take on a lot of responsibilities, I kind of watched a segment you did not too long ago about, I think there was a book, Setting Boundaries, something about boundaries. And I was like, I need to
Yes.
get that book, because
Yes.
I subconsciously do it, not knowing that that's what I've been doing, but just kind of starting to create boundaries and saying yes and no to certain things. Because as a wife and entrepreneur and everything else, you got so many things thrown at you. And I know my husband will come in
Yes.
and start talking about something, and my mind is all the way over here. He's talking about something that requires more thought over here. And I'm like, oh my God, I feel myself like getting frustrated. And I'm like, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1. No, let's
Yes.
table that, because right now I can't do it. I feel my heart starting
Mhm.
to race, and then I'm like,
Yes.
no, that just can't be done right now. Like, let's not talk
Yeah.
about that right now. And I try to table
Yeah.
that. But is that something that you find helpful to others? Is that one method, of course, that someone could use?
Well, yes, because you just established a boundary right there when you said, let's talk about that a little bit later,
Ah.
because your mind is not fully available for him to be able to have another conversation and you just automatically shift. So then
Mm-hmm.
you pretty much put a comma there so that, later on we can follow back up with this. But right now I'm thinking about and trying to process this. So give me a second because we feel like, or we have been taught and trained that multitasking is life, but really your brain doesn't have the capacity for that
Right.
because you are still going to be, going to come up lacking in some way if you keep on trying to do
Mm-hmm.
everything and be
Mm-hmm.
everything. And okay, yeah, I'm talking over here, but okay, yeah, you got this. You know what I'm saying? You
Right.
can't split yourself to be able to really truly focus and be intentional on where you are. So you've got to choose. And boundaries is where that really starts. It's really saying, what are my limitations? And sometimes we feel like the word limitation is a bad thing. It is not,
Mm-hmm.
because that means that we are staying true to ourselves. We know where there is a period, just period, period, and not a comma. Let me go run and do all these other things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But period, this is my capacity. Because sometimes I will use a phrase and I'll say, I'm not able, and I'm not able. I'm
Mm-hmm.
not able to do anything else, take on anything else, because I'm trying to get these things done. And when I take some of that off and accomplish some of that, absolutely, I may be able to do these things, but right now it's not possible. And
Right.
I'm not going to lie to myself or to you and give you an expectation that I end up not fulfilling.
Exactly, exactly. And I think that as women, it's hard to tell people no, because we are
Hmm.
relied on so much, and we're so used to being super
Yeah.
women and making it happen, super mom, super wife,
Yes.
super employee,
Yes.
super boss,
Yeah.
everything. And so
Yeah.
when we say no, we start feeling like failures or less than.
Hmm.
And this is Tough Talks with Chonita. So we're gonna talk about some of the things that people just
Right.
don't want to admit to, but I mean, that's
Exactly.
true. And it might be taboo because the average person feels like we can handle the world, but the weight of the world
Hmm.
does affect us, and we just may not show it as
Yes.
much. Um,
Right.
so yeah, thank you for that.
Yeah.
Boundaries important.
Yeah.
I'm making mental notes
Yeah.
for myself. Now you let me
But
know if at any point this seems like a free session for you.
I will send my bill. Okay. Don't worry. Invoice. I
Okay.
will
Okay.
invoice you. Yes.
Don't FedEx it like to a deal. Don't overnight it. Let it take a while. Give me like the
Uh,
2 week time,
okay.
10 business
Okay.
days type of deal. Okay.
Most definitely. But like, to your point, I was talking to someone the other day and they said, I am now taking the S off my chest and I'm putting an M on my chest. And I was like, okay, so tell me about that, because I know the S is you being superwoman.
Right.
So what is the M? The M is me. The M is team me. I am going to pursue what is going to help me to reset myself before I attempt to do anything else for anyone else. And that's not a selfish thing.
Mm-hmm.
That is a realistic thing that is going to preserve her, because she is not trying to save everybody. She's not trying to be the martyr in every story, fall on the sword for everybody. She
Mm-hmm.
is trying to figure out how to navigate this thing so that she can really be of service to other people, in addition to being of service to herself. Because if she has nothing that fills her up, she can't pour out anything. And then that's when she becomes frustrated. That's when she becomes tired. She becomes angry and she's mad about doing the stuff she's doing. And it's stuff that she enjoys, but it's still frustrating because she is not allowing herself to be refilled.
And it'll come off as resentment.
Yes, it
Yes,
will.
absolutely.
And that's that anger and frustration. Yeah.
Yes, and that brings me to a point. I know that you're big on self-care, and
Mm-hmm.
believe it or not, my very first time going to a real spa was like last year. I think in 2021, I went to oh my goodness, I think it's Juju Spa or something in Atlanta. It was a Korean
Mm-hmm.
bathhouse.
Yeah.
Loved it.
Yes.
And when I
Yes.
came back to my husband, I was like, I don't know what we're gonna do, but we got to put that in the budget at least like once every quarter. Like you just gonna have to give it to me and let
Yeah.
me just go enjoy myself.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't even have to be that big. But self-care is
Mm-hmm.
really important. Tell me a little bit about some of the
Yes.
things that you incorporate into your life and that you help your clients with understanding about self-care.
Yeah. Yeah. So I help them understand that self-care is about the things that you are doing that help to improve you, that help to give you balance, that help you in a space of, say it's frustration, helps you to kind of just release some things, helps you to let go and just take a woosah, have a real big deep breath
Mm-hmm.
that is refreshing for you. So sometimes that's a nap because naps are important. They are recharging, they are getting you refreshed. Your mind is not having to think about stuff. And then you get to come back to the things you need. Sometimes that's a walk. Taking
Right.
a walk, just looking around at the scenery, just being mindful of what you are seeing around you and the beauty of it. Because a lot of times we can just be so engulfed with things on our mind that we can go from our house to our job every day and miss everything that we saw that was happening around us. We even forget
Mm-hmm.
that we went through a stoplight, or did I run that stoplight, because I
Exactly.
really don't remember what was going on because we are so clouded. But self-care is about taking time to smell the roses. It's about being intentional to see, oh, I noticed that. I noticed there's a new building right there, or there's a tree right there, or this looks beautiful. It's even your perception, just stopping to take note of the things that are around you every day. It's engaging in what's going on around you. And sometimes also that's a bubble bath. Sometimes that's
Mm-hmm.
drinking your water. Sometimes that's eating more healthy. And so that might mean that all I did was replace some potato chips with some fruit, but I made a change. And that
Correct.
is me taking care of myself. That is me being intentional about what is going on with me and how I'm going to live day to day. And eventually, if I replace enough things with those things that are healthy, then I begin to live out this healthy lifestyle that I need. And
Mm-hmm.
that helps me from the inside out, because the exercise, the way you eat, the way you even take time to just be still. Some people don't even understand the benefit of stillness. Stillness
Mm.
allows you the opportunity to just hone into the fact that I'm taking deep breaths and I can experience that I'm not hearing anything out here, no noise or anything. I am just being. I'm
Mm-hmm.
allowing my feet to touch the floor and I'm feeling that. I'm experiencing all of these things in that space of silence. And whether that's 2 minutes, or whether that's 20 minutes or 30 minutes, you are still giving yourself that space to unplug. And that is what self care is all about. Now, some people will get into the tug of war of saying, well, getting my nails done and a pedicure and all that, that's not self care, that's maintenance. For some people, that is self care because guess what? They don't do that all the time. That's not
Right.
an every 2 week thing that they do to them for themselves. That
Mm-hmm.
is something that really takes a concerted effort because of situations and circumstances. So we really do have to get out of that too, because self care is anything that helps you feel alive and helps to center something around you and pouring into you. And if you don't always get that, you mentioned going to the spa for the first time. Somebody might be like, oh, child, I do that all the time.
Right.
Now, but that doesn't make it any less of a self-care regimen
Right.
because you do it all the time. That's something you have incorporated. But now that you've said, oh yeah, I need to do this. I see the
Mm-hmm.
benefits of this because that is golden. You are allowing yourself the opportunity to rub out some of that stress that's in your shoulders so your shoulders on up to your ears because you are
Absolutely.
so tense and so stressed.
Right.
And your body will tell on you if you don't allow that to happen.
Mm. So that's amazing. You gave a lot of good points in there, good tips, good pointers. I feel like I need to be writing notes. I mean, I'm gonna play this back a million times. I'm gonna show it to my husband and everybody else. Like, this is what the counselor said. This is what my therapist said right here. Listen. Um, so I want to go back. You mentioned about limitations, right? And us as
Mhm,
women or people in general, I find that when we're young,
mhm,
we dream, we have all these goals and aspirations. We want to be millionaires, maybe not even millionaires. We just have a certain lifestyle we want to live, right? So with
mhm,
what we do, of course, I help women to get their finances right, but I also want to help unblock those blocks or those hindrances that's stopping them from dreaming again, right?
mhm.
And I think that
Yeah,
from what I found that people have these goals and then all of a sudden they get stuck in a place of familiarity and comfort, and then they just
mhm,
stop and they're stuck and they're in neutral, and it's not always a
yeah,
bad thing. But what are some things
yeah,
that can just unblock the mindset of having those limitations that's stopping you from,
yeah.
somebody from reaching from the dreams that they once had?
Mhm. I would say in some ways it's going back to the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
What was going on when you had those goals, those dreams, those aspirations? What was life really like? Because sometimes for people, they didn't have children yet. They
Mm-hmm.
didn't have a job that required so much of them. You know, they hadn't experienced the pandemic yet. And
Mm-hmm.
so those things have shifted some things and created a different routine, a different regimen. I was telling someone the other day that the pandemic has created space where people know this is not beneficial to me. This is not something that I'm used to anymore. So I have totally cut it off and I've shifted the way that I do life. So
Mm-hmm.
sometimes that even means in terms of connections that I had or places I used to go and things like that. Those become out of the norm. So now they have a new normal.
Yes.
And adjusting to that new normal sometimes it causes a barrier.
Mm-hmm.
So when you can go back to the what was going on, you can say, okay, yes, I had that childlike, hope, that childlike,
Mm-hmm.
yes, I can do this and this can be possible in my next, 5, 10, 15 years. So in that space, what feelings did you have? What created a sense of optimism? Because somewhere you've lost that sense of optimism, that sense of excitement, like a child in a candy store.
Right.
Like you felt like you had so many options and things available to you. What happened to you that created that sense of those things are no longer available?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Has life really shifted that much, or has your mindset diminished all of that because you're seeing, okay, well, this is what I've been able to do for so long.
Right.
So now the ability to dream has really been stifled.
Mm.
So in that, I say, take out a piece of paper or your journal, start writing about your wildest imagination, whether you really feel like this will happen or not. What really is it? What if all holes were barred and all was right with the world, what would you be doing? What would your life look like? And then identify how is it that I can get to at least one or two of these things. Because
Mm.
sometimes it's not being right there at the goal and finishing it 100%. Sometimes it's I took these steps. And
Correct.
because I took those steps, I can take two or three more and I can continue to build and get to a space where I feel like, oh yeah, I see the changes. I feel this. And because you feel it, that motivating factor kicks in and you continue to drive yourself. But you've got to identify those things first
That's
because
awesome.
somewhere along the line they were lost.
Yes. That's great advice. Wow, you just filled with gems. Don't send me the bill. I feel like it's gonna be like a whole lot of money. Just don't send me the bill. But let's just cancel the bill altogether. This is a
Okay,
single friend
okay.
type of conversation.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I mean, everything you're saying, I feel like it's spot on, not just for me, but for other people that I might know.
Mhm.
And just knowing that I don't know about you, but I feel like I know at least almost everybody I know has tried to play Superman or something when they were younger and they get a gash here
Yes.
or here because they feel like they can
Yes.
fly. And that's that
Right.
childlike enthusiasm that you were talking about. I can do
Yeah.
anything I put my mind to. And then it's like,
Absolutely.
as you keep trying, life beats you up. So when you got that gas, you didn't try to
Mm-hmm.
fly anymore. But it's similar when we
Mm-hmm.
have those
Yeah.
goals and we're going after those obstacles, and then we life just
Yeah.
like boom, like it wasn't gonna be as easy as you thought it was gonna
Yes.
be, Chonita. But get back up, dust yourself
Mm-hmm.
off, and it's really what are we gonna
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
after we've been knocked down? Are we gonna get back up, right? Um,
Yeah.
and I know a lot of I work with a lot of people that are aspiring entrepreneurs, and I tell
Mm-hmm.
them the good, the bad, and the ugly because it's not always
Right.
easy. And I'm pretty sure you
Exactly.
can relate to this as a fellow
Right.
entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And some people may think it's naive. I mean, not naive,
Mm-hmm.
negativity. But I like I
Yeah.
said, the good, the bad, and the ugly. You could do it, but I don't like to sell people on the idea that you're going to come into it and it's going to be easy. The easiest thing you can do
Right.
is to set up your LLC or your corporation
Mm-hmm.
and pay those
Yes.
fees. The rest of it
Yes.
is going to be hard until you get it
Yeah.
floating where it needs to get to. And then
Right.
once it gets floating, you got to keep it there. So it's not
That's
easy. I'm
it.
not going to tell
That's
anybody
it.
that lie and say it's easy. It may not, and it's
Yeah.
not always going to be fun. It is going to be challenging
Yes.
and it will be
Mm-hmm.
rewarding, right?
Exactly.
But when in talking to people, I try to help them understand that mindset is key because
Mm-hmm.
it's not just who you're around because that does make a big part. Your circle is important.
Yes.
But
Yes.
you know, your circle, what are you listening to? What are you watching? What is it that
Mm-hmm.
you're feeding between your ears? And
Right.
then,
Right.
you know, are those people, is your circle pushing you or are they pulling you? And or do you have an equal
Mm-hmm.
balance? What would you say to that? Just any of that.
I would say all of that is true, and all of what you said is key. Because if I am pursuing, or my wildest dream is I can be a millionaire, then I need to listen to millionaires. I need to pay
Absolutely.
attention to what they are doing, how they are moving, what they're investing in, how they are setting up their corporations, how they are doing X, Y, and Z, because they know the blueprint.
Mm-hmm.
Me sitting here and thinking about it and dreaming about it, I can still be sitting here thinking about it and dreaming about it 10 years from now.
Yeah.
But it is what actionables am I putting into play? How am I investing into myself to be able to gain these insights, to be able to get a peek behind the curtain of these millionaires and the things that they are doing so that I can learn that. Like you said, what are you listening to? Are you listening to the motivation that is going to catapult you, that makes you feel like you can run up that hill
Mm-hmm.
and keep on going and not lose sight, not lose energy, and say, oh no, okay, that hill's too much, I'm just going to stay down here. It's those things that continue to influence you, that continue to enhance you. um and also for me, it's a key piece of, how solid I am praying, how solid I am using my devotions, how solid I'm doing those things that are getting me into a space where I remember who God said I am and
Right.
what he said I really can have and what I can do. Because some people around you, because they haven't seen anything past the past 10 blocks of their neighborhood, they cannot tell you that it's possible. They can say, well, maybe that's out there, but what if you fail? Or what if
Right.
you fall? Well, what if I fail, or what if I fall and I learn how to
Right.
navigate from the falling and from the failure? And I keep on going. I get up and I change a couple of things around, and maybe I trip up again. But what have I also learned in this trip up?
Exactly.
And how do I take that and navigate some more so I can move forward? Failure is your instruction. Failure tells you what not to do again, how I can
Mm-hmm.
do some things a little bit differently, who I can talk to be able to say, okay, well, wait a minute. I tried this. So what am I missing here? And then I'm walking through the plan with them and they're like, okay, well, maybe you need to think about this. And then I continue to move and I continue to navigate until I get it. Because there are people who have fallen like probably hundreds of times. You don't necessarily see those failures, but you see
Right.
the spotlight, you see the highlight reel and the hype. And you're
Yes.
like, oh yeah, I can do that. Okay, that's cute and that's cool. But guess what? They didn't tell you yet that they failed about 10 times, that they
Right.
lost all their money, that they had to rebound and rebuild and do all these other
Hmm.
things. That you got to be able to see the process and know that that is not always going to be great, but it is going to be possible. But nothing works if you don't work it. So you've got to put yourself in those rooms, in those spaces with those people. There is nothing wrong with having people who are not necessarily doing those things, but making sure you check them in the
Hmm.
sense that, are you building? Are you adding to me? Or are you taking away?
Right.
Because just like a bank account, I cannot take too many deductions, okay? Or
Exactly.
this balance will be in the negative.
I
So
love
I
that.
need to make sure that I'm with people who are going to give me dividends in some
Absolutely.
way that is building me up. And so those are definitely key in that.
Yes, I love how you incorporated finance in your analogy. Like that
Yeah.
was just I see
Yes.
what you did there. High five. I see
High
what you
five.
did there.
Yeah.
So, tell me about some of the things and challenges that you face as a woman, especially a busy mom and wife,
Mhm.
getting your business off the ground and just maybe changing the trajectory of your life.
Yeah. So, some of the things that I faced was in the beginning, absolutely doing the most, doing too much, working too much. It takes a lot to be able to sit and hold space for people, and sometimes not realizing that, okay, because I did this for all these hours right here, okay, now what am I doing to really just breathe, to really just kind of decompress,
Hmm.
have that release valve so I can have outlet for myself. So it was really navigating what that plan would look like, what my own self-care would look like, what I
Hmm.
would absolutely say no to, because initially I felt like I had to say yes so many times because it was new and I was
Right.
trying to build it, and then realizing, okay, no, this is not for me because I'm stressed right now. And if
Right.
I'm stressed, how in the world am I going to handle somebody else talking about their stress? Because I'm be like, well, honey, so am I. Okay. And that's not, that's going to give them a sense of comfort in a way. But wait
Right.
a minute. How
Right.
do we resolve this? How do we move forward and go in a different direction so that we can progress? Because baby, we can sit here and talk about our stress all day because I'm living it right now.
Yes.
So I had to really, really rein myself in, and so now I do not work as much. And thankfully, because I absolutely trust God in this, I know now that I'm reaping the fruits and the benefits of a lot of things now because I am being intentional about who I'm connected with, being intentional about the clients I have, and so on and so forth.
Hmm.
Wherein, because everybody is not my person.
Correct.
And there are hundreds, if not thousands, of other counselors out there who will absolutely be able to work with them and be able to get them to where they need to go. And that is not me. That does not have
Hmm.
to be me. So now I am really intentional about knowing my limitations. And as entrepreneurs, you really do have to know that. You got to know you can't go after everything because everything is not on purpose for you. Now it might be for somebody, but it's
Right.
not for you. And you have to be able to accept that and not fear, or okay, fear is gonna creep up. Don't let it pitch a tent, build a foundation, a whole house, none of that. It only gets a temporary amount of time to stay in your head, and then you got to move to the next thing. You got to
Yes.
shift your focus, figure out what it is. Okay, wait a minute. I'm too worried. I'm too focused on what could be happening. What is really going on? And what am I thankful for? What am I grateful for? What has already happened that can help me to know that eventually something else is going to open up? Another door is going to open. But right now, I got to be thankful and praising in the hallway
Yes.
before that door opens. So creating that and understanding that for myself is absolutely, it's been the key. And staying off of this whole what somebody else is doing and what I'm seeing them do on social media and how this is happening and all of that, that is not my business.
Right.
Because in my lane is the stuff that's for me. And
That's
it's
right.
not crowded in my lane, minding my business, drinking my water.
That's right. Not your tea, but your
Yeah,
water.
my water. That's
Yes,
right.
absolutely. So
See this
you
the
said a
skin can
mouthful
shine a little
there.
bit, some water.
You said a mouthful there. Man, a whole lot. So staying in your lane, trusting God. Please believe I
Mhm.
have had my highs and my lows. I mean, we have them every other day. Things happen, and it's just
Yeah,
about how are you
yeah.
handling that? Who is your higher power? What is your higher power? Are you trusting in
Mhm.
that higher power, right?
Yeah,
Um, because God didn't carry me through, up, down, around, and everything
yeah.
else. So trust and believe me, I'm
Yes.
with you on that. And
Yeah.
you mentioned success and what you're up against and not allowing it to paralyze you. And one of the things that I
Mhm.
always tell my kids, and I tell people in general, we all have a great reason not to do something. We're filled with reasons, but it
Yeah.
becomes an excuse
Yes.
when you allow it to paralyze you. Because you can have a
That's
great
it.
reason not to do something, but once it stops your
Yeah.
feet from moving forward, I don't care if it's the next inch, you just
Yeah.
made an excuse.
Yeah.
And
That's it.
um, I'm a part of Persian Angels. It's a national military sorority, and
Yeah.
one of the poems we had to learn was excuses. Excuses are tools
Uh-huh.
of incompetence. Those who use them build monuments of nothingness. It stuck with me because I was like,
Yeah.
wow, that's deep. That is really, really deep.
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
live by that,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
that's one of the things I live by, the serenity prayer, worrying. You talked
Yes.
about worrying.
Yes.
God grant me the strength to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to
Yeah.
change the things that I can, and
Cursing
the
and
wisdom
know
to
the
know the difference. If
know the
that don't
difference. Yeah.
cause you to take
Yeah.
a deep breath and woosah,
Yeah.
like just
Mhm.
giving it to God, right? Um,
Yeah. Yeah.
so real quick, I just want to kind of give my idea of success versus headache. I know when I first got into, well, I have multiple businesses, but in the multiple things that I have my hands in, I'm like, man, do I
Yeah.
really want to build that up like that? Because I'm looking at my life.
Mhm.
I got kids, I have dogs, husband, my lifestyle now, and I'm like, am I gonna have the time to do all this? And then it starts
Uh-huh.
scaring you, right? Like
Yeah.
that God said, to whom much is given, much is required. So I know this is gonna
Mhm.
require a lot. Am I ready though?
Mhm. Yeah.
Am I supposed to do this? But it's going back to those dreams that God gave us as children, those visions, right? When
Mhm.
we felt like we were Superman. I feel
Yes.
like that was embedded in us because, in my opinion, that's our destiny that we remembered as
Yes.
children. And then we got beat up
Yeah.
trying to get there. But it's still your destiny.
That's
If
it.
you just find
That's
the
it.
faith, find the strength, and the willpower to
Mhm.
move forward, you can obtain
Yeah.
that. And so
Yeah.
you just got to strap
Yeah.
those boots up, put on the
Yeah.
armor, pray, and
Yeah.
keep moving,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. Because here's the thing too, we know that God says that before he placed us in our mother's womb, he knew us.
Mm,
So he knew we had purpose then. And we weren't even a little seed that was forming. So in that, none of that left. It really was that fear, that doubt, that everything that maybe somebody else said. But now I get to, as an adult, I get to say who I am. I get to
mm.
say what I can do. I get to say what is possible. That comes becomes something that is released from other people's hands if I let it.
Yes.
But if I'm catching everybody else's stuff and everybody's perception of me, then I'm definitely not going to be able to live out my purpose because I'm really living on somebody else's and not mine. And
Right.
it's understanding and knowing the difference.
Mm.
Because you say I can do it, they say, well, I don't know. Well, they will always say, but it is okay. I'm going to take this step and I'm just going to put one foot in front of the other. And even if I get a centimeter forward, I'm still in forward progress. So I will keep moving on that because one day I'm going to get to where I need to be. But my mindset has to be I'm focused. I'm
Uh,
focused on what he says about me because what he says and what his plans are right. And I'm looking in my glasses because these are prescribed for me. They're not prescribed for anybody else, so nobody can see through them but me. And
that's
I
true.
understand that and I stay where I need to be planted so that I can grow into the purpose that he designed.
Oh man, that's awesome. You sound like Steve Harvey. I was listening to him, I think yesterday. It might have been this morning. He said you can't get your blessing if you move off of Faith Avenue. You can go on over there to Worry Street. You can go over there to Trouble Lane. And as soon as you move, you miss your blessing. You got to stay on Faith Avenue, no matter how toe up you are.
That's it.
And you know, I just want to give a word of encouragement to somebody. I was talking to a good friend of mine, and she was telling me how, you know, she was blessed and some things started working out. And she said, you know, I hope that when I talk to God, he's not like, you had the wrong posture to receive that blessing, because we all get stressed out, like, when is the blessing coming? And she's like, I hope that he looks at me and ain't like, what you got going on? I was like, girl, you never left Faith Avenue. You were there. Your posture, I said, everybody that get up in church and get that testimony, but I was relying on God and I was depending on him. That, trust me, they was broke back, bent over, hunchback, leg cocked to the side. They just knew that he was coming. But their posture was right, because he said faith of a mustard seed will move mountains, and they had the faith. I was like, absolutely. So you good. He know you was over there looking like you needed a bandage and a stitch, but he got you. And we cracked up, we laughed about it. But it's true, because you know, sometimes we make success, or what people think is success, all the time, because we all have our own definitions of success. But we make it look easy. But like you said, they don't see everything below the surface. It's everything that we allow you to see, but all the other stuff that you're dealing with. So when you start comparing yourself to the people on social media or the other people within your industry, it can be hurtful. There's a fine line between competition and then you just, you know, you looking at stuff like, oh, maybe I'm not worthy, because you're listening and thinking about what other people are thinking about you. So I really appreciate you for pointing that out today. So tell me, how can anybody, or how can we contact you, or how can the people reach you if they need you?
Okay. So you can reach me by going to my website, and it's www.4lifeinterrupted.com. You can find me on social media, Dr. Keshia D. Keith, or that's on Facebook, or on Twitter. You can find me at Dr. Keshia, or Instagram, you can find me at Dr. Keshia, and spell it Keshia, and you should be able to locate me.
Yeah, because let me tell you, I had me a dyslexic moment or something. I sure enough spelled your name. I was like, where is she? I was putting Kiesh. So everybody is Keshia. I'm going to say it about 3 times, because, you know, somebody's not going to listen. Keshia. One more time. Keshia. Dr. Keith, thank you so much for coming on today. Dr. Keshia Keith.
Thank you so much for the opportunity to be here.
Yes,
anytime that I can
we
talk
have learned about
it.
being intentional. We learned about oh my goodness, I'm having a brain freeze. We learned about being intentional. We learned about dealing with anxiety, and we learned about self-care, and so many other nuggets that we're going to put in our toolbox. Thanks to you, Dr. Keshia. And y'all make sure y'all leave your addresses below, so she can email addresses and mail, so she can mail y'all this bill, because I'm not paying for it. But Dr. Keshia Keith, thank you so much for coming on. I truly appreciate you. It's always a pleasure and an honor. And I look forward to having you back here on Tough Talks with Chonita Rose in the future. I hope you will come and visit us again.
Absolutely, I will. Just invite me. I'll be here.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And everybody, leave your comments below. Tell us how Dr. Keshia has blessed you with the word today. What have you learned? What are some of the things that you do for self-care? And how are you dealing with the anxieties of everyday life? Thanks again for tuning in, and we will talk to y'all later.